It's always a treat casting Max. He is a very experimental player. He's not afraid to really spread his wings and to try out some more unorthodox builds or just these more otherwise frowned upon play styles. I'm all for it. I'm all for it, and here we go. We're getting into game number 1, and spawning in the top left-hand corner of Oceanborn, we have our American Protoss player. The blue Protoss, currently teamless. It is Astrea. And spawning in the bottom right hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Zerg player, also teamless, the red Zerg, going for a 15-15. It is DRG. Let's go. Okay, so DRG going for the 15-15. We spoke about this in the previous series, or even in the previous game. Just a very safe way to open up does mean that your hatchery gets here, or that your hatchery is started before the probe arrives. If you are familiar with this matchup, you would know that probe scouts into denying the natural base is very commonplace in this matchup, so that is what the 15-15 addresses, as you're able to get your hatchery a little bit faster into a spawning pool, into a delayed gas. As we mentioned in the last game as well, because the gas is later, that means Ling's speed is later. That means we can't be as aggressive early on as we would like to be. So more defensive style here. Or opener, I should say, from DRG. Meanwhile, Astrea going for a gate expand. Gate expand into the cyber core. Standard opener here out of Astrea. Nothing too wild yet. I'm excited to see what he whips out here against DRG. I'm always reminded, it was a couple of weeks ago, also in KSL, when Astrea, he joked by the chat, and he was like, Papi, give me some builds. Give me some builds to try against Dark. It was, I remember, he was playing a series against Dark, and jokingly, I was like, I think, I mentioned 2 builds. I said, a macro cannon rush, macro forge opener, on Alkione, because Dark likes to go for proxy hatch, and a double robo disruptor drop for game 2, and he did it. No, I felt so bad because they did not work. I was like, I was joking, Papi. I'm like, I didn't think you'd do it. And Astrea was like, no, it's okay, it's okay. I like trying different things. He's so wholesome. But yeah, again, Astrea, he's just willing to think outside the box at times. And for the time being, though, standard opener out of Astrea, going for a Stargate as a follow-up. Going for the Stargate, this should be for Oracle production, should be leading to a 3rd base. The early game here so far from Astrea looks pretty by the book. Meanwhile, DRG going for his own 3rd, again, later Ling speed. We're just easing in towards our early to mid game here. Nothing wild yet. Again, I feel like we were spoiled a little bit by Dark earlier, with Dark going like mass Ling Bane into Ultra in game 1 and stuff like that. DRG, he also thrives in the mid game, but in a much more standard sense. Like, I expect Ling Bane Roach Ravager out of DRG, for example. Like, I don't expect him to really deviate too much. We have seen DRG whip out Spire play, like where you hide the Spire and you go mass Muta and you catch the Protoss off guard. That is something that DRG does mix in from time to time, but outside of that, I expect Ling Bane Road Ravager. But we'll see. We'll see. We shall see. As DRG is going to be going for an Evo Chamber first. That should be for +1 melee. Overlord is going to be hunted down. Good pick off there by Astrea. Does supply block DRG, at least until the hatchery does finish. So not a bad move there from Astrea. And there we go. He's just waiting for a second Oracle before moving out across the map. With the double Oracle opener, we can one-shot drones, and we can try to test or kind of skill check DRG and see if he can keep up with his queen movement. So far we have 4 queens at the 3rd. We have a queen and a spore here at the natural. The main base a little bit more exposed, but there is a spore in position. As the Oracles, they do threaten that mineral line. They don't quite get any kills yet. Oh, they get 1. They get a 2nd, they get a 3rd as well. But when they go for a 4th, good damage dealt here by Astrea. Does take a lot of hits on the Oracles, that is true, but he keeps them all alive and he backs off. Behind this, I don't see a Forge. No Forge. It's going to be a Twilight Council, 3 more gateways on the way. This looks like a 3-base all-in, which I'm still really tentative saying that, just because it's been a while since we've seen it at the competitive level. This used to be very trendy, like last year in the last map pool, like October, September-ish, which would be like an 8-gate, like blink all in on 3 bases. We'd see it a lot from players like Hero, from players like Classic, from Nightmare. It was very trendy to whip out in the last map pool. I'm reading that just because there's no Forge. There's no upgrade. There's no kind of longevity to this army here of Astrea. And we are pushing with our Stalkers already. Looking at the gateway count so far, nothing major, but there we go. Forge is now on the way. A delayed Forge. But we delay the Forge in favor of additional Stalkers. As we do try to punish DRG here if he was droning up too heavily. So far, he's going to be able to hold. DRG, he does hold on. His queens are in position. Lings are amassing as we speak. And Astrea, he's going to be rotating around. Does get eyes on the 4th base. Can he do much about this, though? Again, Blink is just now finishing for Astrea. The stasis up. Is baited out. Very well done there by DRG. He gets us surrounding on these Stalkers, but Blink is done, and we do escape. We do manage to get away. With the Queens, they do focus on an Oracle. Big pickup. And Lings are amassing. The Stalkers are getting quite low. They're getting so low. We do pick up one of them. We get 1. We get 2. We get 3. We get 4. And this is snowballing out of control. We're bleeding out far too many Stalkers here. Yes, DRG, he does punish the aggression of Astrea. Punishes him for being too active. Another Stalker falls at another. And again, we're trading minerals for gas. This is worth it for DRG. Especially against a Blink Stalker heavy composition. Like, ideally, you want to preserve and build up the Stalkers over time. And we have lost 7. 7 Stalkers have fallen. Behind this, DRG double expanding, getting his 4th and his 5th base. Going to be droning up, saturating his bases. Now, Astrea does have a good worker count. He's been pumping out probes, and he's working on the next step. +1, 2nd Forge, Templar Archives on the way for Archons, for Storm, Charge, like anything and everything. Astrea is taking quite a bit, but he did lose a big portion of his army, so now he doesn't have as much to threaten DRG. I'm sure that Astrea, I'm pretty certain his goal here was to deny the 4th. It was to apply pressure to the 4th base, was to reinforce and break the 4th. But it just didn't happen. Because of the aggression of DRG, his 4th base stands strong. And Astrea, now his later upgrades are less than ideal. Because remember, Astrea, he delayed his upgrades in favor of that push. And it did fall in its face. Meanwhile, DRG going to be committing across the map. Does get on top of the cannon. Shield battery isn't done, by the way. And shield battery's not done. We get the cannon. We get a 2nd cannon as well. We shouldn't get much more, though. Yeah, we shouldn't get much more here. As Lings are being cleaned up. DRG behind this is going Lingbane Roach Ravager, as we assumed he would earlier. It's a very solid composition here in the mid-game. It's very well-rounded. +2 melees on the way. Roach speed as well. Astrea getting ready for a big Stellar run by on the right-hand side. Meanwhile, DRG just goes right through the middle. A static defense is still on the way. Instead, it looks like DRG wants to maybe collapse on the Stalkers. It's going for either or. Okay. I was like, is the wall a wall? It is, thankfully. The wall is a wall. Adept is going to be going down with the Lings. They bust in. They bust into the natural. They get into the main base. Again, the Lings, they are getting damage on. Probes are falling so many. 12, 13 probes go down at the same time that that Zealot run by does hit. We have plenty of reinforcements back at home. We got 14 probe kills across the map. And Astrea, he only gets 3 drones. The Zealot run by was not worth it. And with that, Astrea at one point had a massive worker lead. Not anymore. Now it's evening up when it comes to the workers, when it comes to the economy. DRG, he is maxing out here with his Lingbane Roach Ravager. I keep saying Ravager, no Ravagers yet. Just Lingbane Roach. Just focusing his gas on that Baneling production. Astrea, he is going to be backing off, reinforcing, still with a gateway heavy composition. Just quickly checking, no Storm, by the way. I assumed he would be rushing towards Storm, but it is going to be Archon or Charger Archon Stalker. No splash damage, or I should say that we're relying on the Archons for our splash damage instead. We are relying on those Archons. DRG, he has maxed out. Can he break this position? We do have some stack defense, we do have some stasis traps. DRG getting a better angle. Yeah, he does collapse on this Banelings. They do roll on in. And they trigger the stasis. But it's not going to be good enough. Overcharge is popping. He gets focused down by the Banelings. We get into the middle line and probes are falling. 9 probes fall. We break through the Zealots. There's one Archon left, but it's going to be focused down as well. And does DRG have enough to break this? I don't think he does. He's barely forced back until the Ling Bane breaks out of the stasis. DRG backs off. Astrea, he does hold, but this was a costly hold. It cost him the Zealots, the Archons, all of his stack defense, or most of it. Big stasis. Oh my god. A very nice stasis, actually. Does make things more awkward here for DRG, but he's still breaking through, still snowballing out of control, breaks through into the base itself. Yeah, limited kiting here for Astrea. Slings are coming in from behind. Yeah, overcharge is on cooldown. It was used earlier. And it looks like the army has been broken. And just a very intense game overall from one end, then into the other. DRG was able to get out of control, and he has broken this fourth. There are only oracles in the air. 5 of them. Jesus. GG gets called, and DRG will take game number 1. GG. A very interesting opener out of Astrea is what I will say. And this is what I spoke about earlier, how Astrea, he's a very innovative or experimental player. He's very adventurous. That's a better way to put it. He's a very adventurous player. And Astrea, to go for a delayed forge like that, it's really risky. It's really risky just because it does mean that your mid game is a little bit weaker. It does mean that your upgrade timings are later, of course. And we spoke about it. The reason for that, I'm pretty sure, was so he can apply pressure earlier on. And he was moving in such a way to try to contest and break the 4th base. But DRG, he was so aggressive with his Lings. Like, as soon as he smelled weakness, as soon as he saw an opportunity, he just continued flooding Lings, and he was able to chase down those Stalkers. Even with Blink, they could not escape, and Astrea was forced all the way back home. He bled out little Stalkers, and he missed that window to punish the 4th. He missed that window, he wasn't able to, and with that, the purpose of his build, he wasn't able to achieve that purpose, and yeah, he did kind of end up relinquishing map control afterwards. And it was DRG who was able to gain momentum from there. GG. GG, well played. Solid game there out of DRG. But now we're getting into game numero 2. Let's go. Getting into game number 2. Gonna be on hard lead. Another smaller map. And the shortest rush distance map in the map pool. I'm here for it. I'm ready for it. I'm here for some hard lead. Let's go. And spawning in the top left hand corner of hard lead, we have our American Protoss player, the blue Protoss, representing himself, currently teamless, looking deserving to be on a team. It is Astrea. And spawning in the bottom right hand corner, we have his opponent once again going for a 15 hatch opener. We have the South Korean Zerg player, the red Zerg, leading the series 1-0. It is DRG. Here we go. So once again, another safe opener here out of our Zerg player. 15 hatch into the 15 spawning pool. Going for another extractor trick. And into a delayed gas geyser here once again. Really, my eyes are mainly on Astrea. I mean, kind of. It's complicated. So, my eyes are mainly on Astrea just because, again, his build last game was a little bit more out of the norm, and I'm curious to see how he deviates again. I don't expect the same build 2 games in a row out of Astrea. I expect to see something quite different, so I'm really excited to see what Astrea brings to the table here in game 2. At the same time, we spoke about hard lead. In general, smaller maps. Oceanborn is another smaller map, has another shorter rush distance by ground, which I imagine is why Astrea chose that build on Oceanborn. hard lead, even smaller, even shorter rush distance. You can be that much more assertive, that much more aggressive. And something we've seen a lot of on this map is Roach Queen based all-ins. Whether it's a Queen walk across the map, whether it's a German taxi, whether it's Nidus based, we have seen a lot of all-ins. Reason for this is just because you can knock down these rocks, or even if you don't knock down the rocks, like it just doesn't take long at all to get across the map. Likewise, there's no ramp or there's no point of elevation as an advantage here at the natural or at the third base, because you can push right through the center and you don't have any kind of ramp or high ground advantage at either one of these bases. So again, all-ins, they can be that much more effective on this map as well. We brought this up yesterday, and we saw it a lot yesterday whenever we casted a ZVP on hard lead, whether it was from Rex or from Silky or another Zerg player. It was like, no, yeah, you know, we see all-ins quite a bit, and that's all we saw on hard lead yesterday. I'm not saying that we're going to see that here, but it's definitely a possibility, and something we have to be wary of. Something that I'm sure Astrea is also wary of. So we have to keep an eye on the worker count, we have to keep an eye on the overall unit production, the roach production. Do need to scout our opponent, as it is going to be a Stargate opener. Stargate opener out of Astrea. DRG getting his third. Now DRG, he has taken the linear third base, and this is a much more passive base to take. The triangular third allows you to spread creep very quickly across the map. So based on the base location, it looks, at least for now, to be something a little bit more standard. Something a little bit more chill from DRG. As the Adept is going to be threatening a shade. Meanwhile, third base is being taken, or will soon be taken here by Astrea, as he gets into his Oracle Harass. It is soon on the way. Likewise, he's going to be harassing here with his first two Adepts. Again, two Adepts, one-shot drones, so they have to be respected. Likewise, the problem here is that Astrea, he has to be very careful with how and when he commits with these Adepts, because if he loses the Adepts, he will lose the third. You know, DRG can immediately counterattack and hit that third base. So we have to be wary here. Instead, we're focusing down some tumors. Do get both tumors, so do back off. Likewise, Adepts, they do cancel the shade. Oracles are being forced back. And Astrea looks like he's coming back home to defend his third, at least with the Adepts. When it comes to the Oracle Harass, that's only just begun, as now we have a second Oracle hitting the field for Astrea. Again, two Oracles, also one-shot units, or they one-shot drones. So they can threaten this mineral line. We do have one spore in the main, one spore at the natural. The third base a little bit more exposed. The Queens, they are rotating over towards that main base. Where are the Oracles headed? As they do try to bypass the Queens, unable to. Fast Evo Chamber leads into a fast +1 melee. This looks like the same setup so far as DRG had in game 1. And this time, that's a Twilight Council and a Forge. Much more standard Forge timing. Looks like +1 in Blink. This could be +1 in Charge. That is definitely another option available here for Astrea. Well, meanwhile, the Ling slips. How did we get in? The wall was not a wall. The Ling does slip in. We get eyes on everything, and now we confirm the much more standard timing with that Forge, of course. +1 on the way, and it is not Blink. It is indeed Charge. Okay. A much more aggressive style here out of Astrea. Going into Charge lots. Soon to be Archons as well. Meanwhile, DRG chilling, getting his lair, working towards his Roach Warren. Should be Lingbane Roach once again. Same composition out of DRG. Upon scouting, he should also be aware that Astrea isn't going to be as aggressive this time, as Astrea picks off an Overlord. And again, Astrea, he's playing with fire right now. He has to be very careful, especially considering that these Stalkers don't have Blink, and they never will. Or at least not anytime soon. So we just back off. Astrea, he's aware of that. He just completely backs off, retreats back home. Temple Archives on the way. That's a pretty big gateway explosion. That's going to be, what, 8 gates in total? Oh boy. Yeah, we're getting up to 8 gates. We're working towards Charge. We do have Archon production soon on the way. There's that Robo. I imagine we're going to be waiting for the Warp Prism, and then we're going to be pushing here with our Protoss army. Behind this, DRG very quick to get into an infestation pit. This has become much more trendy as of late to get into a fast pit. This is for fast adrenal, fast hive. And it gives you access to Vipers if you do need them. Speaking of Vipers, ooh, much more faster tech here out of DRG. Initially setting up for Lingbane Roach, but no, we have a Hydra Den now on the way. No Baneling Nest. Okay. So Ling Roach into Hydra. Now, this will give you access to Lurker tech, so it does set you up better to get into the late game. To take up even further, but here we go. Astrea is now pushing. He is moving out right through the center. Doesn't have a War Prism with his army, but he is committing at the same time. The Ling run by, ooh, does get a stasis to the face. And the Lings, they don't achieve much of anything across the map. Astrea pushing right through the middle. DRG supply blocked. Is supply blocked. Astrea, he does commit. He does back off. He respects the queens. I feel like maybe we could have kept pushing if we had a War Prism. That's the thing. There was no way to reinforce Astrea. He does retreat. I saw the rover being built, but it is going to be Observer here. Observer before Prism. That was a scary moment for DRG, but he does defend. And now he's getting into Lurker tech and Hive. Hydra Lurker Vipers on the horizon. A very scary moment here for Astrea. He does go for the Revelation. He does get eyes on the Hive. He sees the Lurker Den as well. Big scout. And what is our plan from here? We're getting into Immortal production. This should trigger a response. Either a second Robo, maybe Sky Toss, or a push. For the time being, we're going for a second Forge. Ling's going to attempt to harass, but there is a wall. There is a full wall set up. Astrea just turtling on these 4 bases. Soon to be expanding and taking a 5th. Does have a lot of storms. That's 10 High Templar, but there we go. Morphing some of them into Archons. And we're scouting. Very important here. We're looking for a Skytoss transition. We're making sure that there's no Fleet Beacon, there's no second Stargate. There's a second Forge plus 3s on the way. Still only 1 Robo. I'm concerned about this singular Robo production, not gonna lie. As Roaches try to engage, they pick up an Archon. We take some losses there, but DRG, he is maxed out. Lurkers have arrived. We outposition the army as Astrea, he's not where he needs to be. And we push right for that 4th base. Yeah, Spine Shot's going to be going off. Cannons are going down. Yeah, Astrea, he's forced to respond, forced to rotate back over. Going for a Zealot Rabbi at the same time. Is breaking through. Oracle's doing what they can. They do manage to pick off 2 of those Lurkers. Even looking for a 3rd and 4th. And the Zealot Runby is doing actually quite a lot of damage here. They're breaking through a base. They're getting into a mineral line, but at the same time, 16 pros went down. And can we break these Lurkers? Oh, we target down those High Templar. We clean up the Lurkers, though, and 2 High Templar survive. Not a bad fight here for Astrea. Looking at the units lost tab here, that was 12 dead Lurkers for 4 High Templar. And mainly a Gateway army. Pretty good fight here for the Protoss. Good fight for Astrea. Likewise, you also kill the base. Able to slow down those reinforcements. And this is still anyone's game. This is still up in the air. We are lacking storms. And that's what... Oh, never mind. I was going to say that's what some of these High Templar are for. But no, we're morphing a wave of Archons. We only have 2 High Templar and 2 storms available, which is scary. And again, a very low immortal count. And without a high immortal count, or without disruptors even, I feel like the Masked Lurker should come out on top. Lings, they hit the 5th. They get a surround. They're going to get a kill. They do get a kill on that 5th. Things starting to run by. 1 Lurker goes down. We do take a stasis to the face. Not the worst thing, but it does mean that these Lurkers should get sniped as well. As DRG is rotating over towards the 3rd base instead. Gets 2 of those cannons. Rotates back around. Oh, he's actually threading the mineral line. 16 probes. He's within range of the mineral line. 18 workers go down. 20 probes go down. And Astrea, he doesn't pull them back. 22 and counting. And the mineral line is exposed. We do see Astrea trying to find a better angle of attack. But again, he just cannot engage. And now we see the fleet beacon, but this might be too late. Oh my god, the spine shots are insane. They're absolutely brutal here, as lurker range has been done for quite some time. We just annihilate those zealots. We pull the army apart. We're going to kill in the 4th base at the same time. A big link flood into the main. Astrea, he's being pulled apart. He just cannot keep up. And again, even though we scattered the lurker den pretty early on, he just wasn't able to deal with them. Wasn't able to keep up. Forge gets sniped. We're pushing right through the middle. We will be able to take down the center base. Oh, the storms! Big storms on the Ling Hydra. The storms were good, but we're pretty all in with this, and we're being picked apart. We're being surrounded. DRG collapses on the army, and there's just no way out. The immortal count is reset, and again, we only have 1 robo. We can't produce any more immortals. Ooh. Big storms on the Zerg army, though. Like, the storms have been good, but we don't have a 5th, and we don't have a 4th. Astrea, he just cannot rebuild. He cannot sustain himself. Not anymore. No longer has an economy. His economy. Decent storms once again. But GG gets pulled. The swarm cannot be stopped, and DRG will take the series 2-0. GG. GG, well played. Congratulations here to Dongraegu for taking the series 2-0. Again, I do think the scout was on time for Astrea. Like, for him to realize that lurkers were on the way was not a bad moment for him. But if you remember, we were waiting for his response. It's like, do we go for a fleet beacon? Do we go for a robo? Do we go for a robotics bay for disruptors? What exactly do we go for? He opted to go for a more Archon heavy composition, which is okay, but as we saw, it has such a hard time keeping up with the rotations of the Zerg player, and more often than not, we found Astrea pulled one way then the other, and he had a really hard time keeping up with the movement and the maneuverability of DRG. And by the time he started to throw down his fleet beacon for Skytels, it was too late. It did look like maybe Astrea was hoping he could hit and kill DRG before he hit critical mass of lurkers, but that wasn't the case. That was not the case. Wasn't able to push out. GG. Well played. Well played. Well played. With that, DRG advances on to the quarterfinals. This was a round of 16 match. He advances on to the quarterfinals to face off against his next opponent. Up next, we have Hero versus Dongraegu. Let's go.